I'm Dr. Dave Jando. Welcome back to our ongoing special event series at Operation Freedom and DaveJanda.com. Operation Freedom is coming up on its 14th anniversary of our initial radio broadcast through Wham Talk 1600 Studios, as is the 14th anniversary of DaveJanda.com. And the purpose of DaveJanda.com and Operation Freedom is to provide you information to put you ahead of the globalist constructed curve that ends in a brick wall with the shattering of your freedoms, your liberties, your health, your financial stability, your future, our country, and our constitutional republic. And one of the topics we have focused on over the past 14 years is your financial freedom. And it is based on the premise that was taught to me by members of my family, particularly my dad, that two concepts. One, if it's paper, it's vapor. And number two, if you can't hold it, you don't own it. And the point of that was that there are counterparty risks or debt associated with paper assets, as opposed to physical assets such as gold and silver, which can be viewed as financial insurance policies. And when there is not debt or counterparty risk associated with gold and silver, it makes them the ultimate life preserver for your financial future and freedom. And the title of today's presentation is The Financial Takedown, which is ongoing, and Your Life Preserver. I'm honored to have with me someone who has been with us for a number of years, Adriana Reed. She is one of the top people in our country and frankly the world as it relates to precious metals. Precious metals, your financial insurance policy. She is a principal in the Camino company, Camino, CaminoCompany.com. It's my honor to welcome back Adriana Reed. Adriana, welcome back.
Thanks for having me again, Dave.
So you and I are going to do an interactive special presentation, and we want to give people a heads up on Saturday, April 6th at 10 a.m. Eastern. Educate our listeners about that very different type of approach that we're going to inflict upon them.
Yeah. So what we want to do is I would like to have a chance to have Dave and I be able to interact with, more of you guys out there who maybe want to sit in and ask questions, kind of like a live Q&A. But, one of the good sides of technology is that we can do it across the country and you guys can all join us. So what we're going to do is are going to send out, Dave's going to send out a Zoom call link, and I will also, if you would like to request it from me as well, or I will also be sending to many of my customers as it is to be able to come onto the Zoom call, and Dave and I will be going over a bunch of things and also allow the opportunity for you guys to ask us live questions and to interact with us. We're going to have a host will be moderating the call to make sure that we answer all of your questions and comments and concerns, and give you guys an opportunity kind of just to dig a little bit deeper, but also, be present with us as we are communicating the things that we feel are very important.
And that Zoom link will go out to the customers of Camino Company, and will also go out to the subscribers of DaveJanda.com, the premium service content subscribers.
Exactly.
Adriana, over the years, you and I and a number of others have gotten a lot of blowback from people when we said, look, the politicians don't run the show.
No.
It's the people above the politicians. The politicians are nothing more than marionettes or puppets for the banking syndicate, the international banking syndicate. And they do the dirty, if you will, along with a number of their other tentacles, whatever it might, such as the bought-off lamestream fake media, in, if you will, the ongoing process of stripping people of their freedoms and liberties. So I want your take on this. This was just published by Alex Craner, and the article is entitled "The Power Behind the Throne and the Bankers' Forever Wars." Here's what he says. Recently, former UK Prime Minister Liz Truss gave us an eye-opening, at least to some, of a revelation which deserves to be set to the record. Truss appeared on an interview, and here's what she said, quote, now she was the former prime minister.
Yes.
of Great Britain. What I found when I got into number 10 Downing Street is I thought that if I got to the top of the tree, I would be able to implement those conservative policies of which I was elected. But what I discovered was that I was not holding the levers of power. The levers of power were held by the Bank of England, by the Office of Budget Responsibility. They were not held by me, the Prime Minister, or the Chancellor. She went on to point out that the obvious problem with this is you can sack the Prime Minister, but you cannot sack the Bank of England, the bankster officials who hold the level of levers of power. Mm-hmm. The article goes on to this, Adriana. In untangling the causal factors behind many crises we face today, such as never-ending war, always escalating war, the trail of breadcrumbs always leads to the international banking cartel, which appears to have the determining influence shaping the system of governance under which our societies operate. Your take on all that, Adriana?
Yeah, so as we know in the current state that the world's in the general sense of things, that realistically, wars dating back to, I could probably say World War II would probably be the last war that I would say was for a sole purpose of truly fighting a cause. That the wars since then are all about making money for politicians and putting money into hands of individuals who are running the show, like you said. My perspective, especially, we are currently in a war, even though Congress did not declare war, which is actually unconstitutional. We're sending a lot of money overseas to help provide to fund wars over in the Middle East, Ukraine. And I think it's unfortunately probably going to spread at some point is kind of how it works. But, the fact of the matter is that war itself is a huge moneymaker. If we saw back under FDR, they say a lot of people say that the war, in essence, us entering the war, pulled us out of the Great Depression because it's such a supplier of monetary wealth. And it makes people very, very wealthy as long as you're in the right position. But what it does for the American people is we end up sending our children overseas to fight their wars. That's really what it's about. And so we are all replaceable to them. That's part of the reason why I'm anti-war as much as I am, because I don't believe any war that we fought in this modern era has even been worth it at all. When you go to implement your ideologies, as she stated before, it's much harder than people think. I think that people think that people can just step in and do whatever they want to do and get the job done. But we're up against a very big fish. I hope people really understand what we're up against. There's a lot of control. That's why you feel it a lot more in the United States. Your liberties and your freedoms are starting to feel really tight. Kind of like you have to question if you step with your right foot or your left foot first, which one are you going to get in trouble for? My take is, in the general sense of things, is war is a moneymaker, and policies, whatever they choose to do, they're going to implement and they're going to make it happen, unfortunately.
Yeah, in fact, history does show, Adriana, you are absolutely 110% correct, that with every war, the people like us, that the globalists call the useless eaters, we're the ones who go and die in their wars. We're the ones who send our children to go and get maimed, injured, die in their wars.
Yes.
We're the ones who send tax money to pay for both sides of their war one way or another. And out of the war, the only winners are the international banking syndicate, because it has been shown and proven over hundreds of years, they get, when it's all said and done, more power, more control, and more financial resources.
Exactly.
But they also use it as a distraction.
Yes.
A lot of people are mad at me, Adriana, because I've said the wars that we're seeing in the Middle East, in Russia, Ukraine, and possibly with Taiwan and China kicking up.
Yes.
They're distractions because the banking syndicate has rigged the financial system, and my analogy here is purposeful, has rigged the financial system, the buildings, to fall in their own footprints, to implode in their own footprints. And they're doing that so that when it's all said and done, they try to resurrect a type of system that actually gives them more power, more control, and more financial resources. And in the process, they've already protected themselves for the financial fallout to come. Now, a lot of people get very mad at me on this, Adriana. Give us your take.
Yeah, I mean, it's 100%. The fact of the matter is when you line a war up for everybody to get rich the way that they do, you end up, the American people are the only ones who are actually going to suffer from all of this. Like you said, our tax dollars end up going, all the monetary supply in general, we have to fund all these wars. They start printing money again. It causes more inflation. You have to supply the wars. But on top of that, recently, there was this a statistic that came out that said that we're going to send some more weapons over to Israel, Ukraine in these next coming up deals. But American supply of military weapons is decreasing very rapidly. And so there's another concern that you have to add where it comes exactly what you're saying, that smoke and mirror is that, well, he who has the guns is kind of in control. I hope people kind of realize that. As much as people talk about taking guns and things away in this country, the Second Amendment was implemented for the exact purpose of why we're funding other wars, is that they didn't have the weaponry or weaponry or supply in order to provide for their own people to protect themselves. And so that's where, in the general sense of things, you have to follow the money. You have to follow who they're putting in the wars. And you have to realize exactly what you said. And this is the last factor. We are currently funding Israel while sending aid to Gaza. It's kind of like a Sour Patch Kid. It's like, I'm going to hit you in the face and then I'm going to take you to the doctor and pay your medical bills. It's not logical. It's not necessary to me in the general sense of things. I'm really adamant. The state that our country is in itself, it goes to show also how much we've put off America first, that America does not come first. We send all this money to other countries because they're getting bombed, but Southside Chicago has, murders that are rampant. And, they had like a weekend where there was no killings and it was like on record as like a historical day. So, at some point we need to take care of ourselves first. We need to put the money into our own country. We need to provide for our own people. We need to secure our country. And then, if other people want to join us at the table and eat with us, I'm fine with that. But I'm also going to feed my family first before I invite friends over.
And Adriana, one of the fallacies many people say is that all this that's happening, all this bad stuff that's happening, well, it's an accident, or it's a coincidence, or it's because of incompetence. No, it's not. It's all contrived and it's all planned.
Yes. Yeah.
So you mentioned Russia, Ukraine. The Russia went into Ukraine in February of 2022.
Yeah.
And in March of 2022, the current administration decided that they were going to slap Russia's hand, and they took them out of the international payment system based on the dollar, the SWIFT system, and they confiscated the United States and the West $300 billion worth of assets from Russia. Now, since then, we've seen the buildup of the BRICS countries. Now they have 41 countries wanting to join them, other than Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, Saudi Arabia just joined, but 41 other countries. And they're talking about the development of a trading currency that's based on hard assets, such as gold, silver, gas, natural gas, and the like.
Yeah.
Well, that essentially, Adriana, is a recipe. What these politicians did, these puppets, is they essentially imploded the reserve currency of the United States dollar.
Yeah, they did. Absolutely. And you can also truly, if you follow the framework as to how this has all played out, you will find that it literally is like a domino effect. And that's how you know that it's lined up. One domino has to fall for the next one. So you have the 1913 with the Federal Reserve. Then you have the recall of gold 20 years later. So if you look at how everything kind of happens, and then 1971, we go off a silver standard. And then you have your major crashes post taking us off of all standards in general. The crashes get harder and harder and harder on the American people when they do come. And that is by design, because what they want is you to put your hand out and say, I need the government to help me, I need government assistance.
Mm-hmm.
Very similar to what we saw during the pandemic, is that they wanted to shut local businesses down or tell people they can't work. And you need to get a PPP loan, and you need to send us all your information and let us know that you need money. When the fact of the matter is I saw functioning businesses still going, that were in a certain percentage of population of people that were allowed to function, is really what it came down to. We experienced it very heavy here in California in the general sense of things, where lots of people were trying to get help just to stay afloat. And when you start seeing this turn towards the government, that's when you should start questioning what's going on, in the general sense of things, because the government is not there to give you a job. They're not there to give you money. They're there to sit on the sidelines, to be frank, and to do exactly the things that the American people want out of their country. I mean, we've lost sight in the general sense of things, to me, what government and politicians represent, and that's that they should represent us as a population. And I don't see that. I haven't seen it for the past 20 years, to be honest.
Well, they're supposed to be public servants, but they got it wrong. They're expecting the public to serve them, and for them to only serve themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, Adriana, when we look across the landscape, and we don't, let's say, listen to what they say, but we watch what they do. If we watch the globalist syndicate, of which a tentacle is the federal banking system, the Federal Reserve System, the central banking system around the world, they have been buying gold and silver hand over fist in huge quantities over the past several years. When we look at sovereign entities, Russia, China, India, Turkey, Malaysia, you name the country, they've also been buying gold and silver hand over fist. They've actually also gone back to the United States, and the Federal Reserve refuses to say how much gold has been repatriated back to those countries that we were storing for them, right? Because it probably would create a run on the bank if the truth actually came out.
Right, exactly.
So they tell us, the globalists, their government puppets say, gold and silver, they're barbarous relics. They're rocks. Meanwhile, they're buying as much as they can. And in the process, they're manipulating the paper market, which is drastically different than the physical market, to keep the prices, if you will, within reach for themselves to accumulate more. Now, the wheels are kind of coming off that system. But so they're telling us, don't do it. Yet, in China, just the other day, their gold markets opened up because they were on holiday. And the estimates were, they showed these videos, right, of hundreds of thousands of people jamming the streets, going into the gold markets to buy gold, physical gold and physical silver. So, Adriana, it's obvious, if you are a student of history, or even a passerby of history, when it all comes down to it, gold and silver are financial life preservers, lifeboats, physical.
Absolutely.
But we also hear, I just had a conversation with a good friend of mine that said, I talked to my financial advisor about this. My financial advisor said, look, I understand where you're coming from, but physical precious metals are hard to buy. There's no transparency in buying or selling them. that it's, forget it. It's just, you're just going to get potentially ripped off. And it's just, it's illiquid. Well, I mean, again, the person saying this is someone who their entire income is on people holding paper assets and not having hard physical assets. Okay. So Adriana, take us through the process. Take us through what's available. Gold, silver. I know you have some items to show us. And tell us. Now, granted, gold is this barbarous relic, is hitting an all-time high recently. Hit all-time high. Silver's moving up. So if it's so barbarous and people don't want it, why is it going up in price? Okay. So show us, educate us. Buying, selling, what people are buying, what they're selling, and in fact, it is transparent. And it's a very easy process. At least you at Camino make it easy. And if someone decides that they're going to go with their Uncle Vinny to buy gold and silver, fine. But at least understand the process of an honest process that I have known about and dealt with Camino for 30 years, for goodness sakes. And it's been fantastic and perfect. But when they get involved with their Uncle Vinny doing this, if they know the way it's done the right way, the way you do it at Camino, then when Uncle Vinny starts doing something a little different, they'll know, wait a minute, red flag here, Uncle Vinny.
Right.
Educate us, Adriana.
Yeah, so here's a couple of things, kind of just I'm going to start from the beginning of what you said to kind of the end. With all these countries buying, we also have to look, and I consider myself a student of history. I love history. Is you have to look at the youth of the United States. I think that we're acting very much like what I would consider kind of how new money acts. We don't need that. We're going to be fine. We don't have to go through anything. We live in the richest country in the world and we're the greatest and nothing's ever going to happen to us. Versus you have countries like Russia and China who have thousands of years of history under their belt. And they're basically saying, I'm going to listen to my elders because they've been through it and we're going to preserve our wealth and we're going to make our country wealthier. We're going to make our people wealthier. And we're going to, basically ensure our entire country to make sure, especially we see China's going through somewhat of a crash right now, is that they are all probably going to be okay because they own gold and silver. That's really what it comes down to. So what I did is I actually, this video is a little different for us because I did bring some items that I want to show everybody because I think one of the things that deters people is that you're afraid of what the product is size-wise, you're not sure. So that way I can also give you a good visual. So as far as it goes, in the general sense of things, the main items that we want to buy, we see right here, this is going to be a gold eagle here. I can put it in the screen if we see it there. That's a gold eagle. Now, to put my hand in perspective, that's how big a gold coin approximately is. We also have gold buffaloes, which is another option. It's a 24 karat option. Sorry, the visual is a little bit off there.
No, you're good.
Then
but the Eagles come in 1 ounce. What, one?
Yeah, so we can go 1/2 ounce, 1/4 ounce, and 1/10 of an ounce.
Got it.
Now, as far as it goes, the premiums are coming down pretty significantly as far as what I've seen on fractional gold. So if you want to buy fractional gold, I don't think it's a bad idea. At one point, I really was deterring people as best I could because of the premiums. I thought they were absurd. But also just to add 2 more 1 ouncers, we also have, this is the Cougaran, the South African Cougaran. And then we also have the Canadian Maple, which is, I tend to buy these, me and my husband, when we're, putting our money to the side, we go with the Maple Leafs.
Why is that? Why is that?
So part of the reason that I go for Maple Leafs, now here's one thing I'm going to explain. So if you look at the color difference between the Cougaran and the Maple, you can really the tones are very different. This almost is like a red, and this is very true to gold. The Cougaran itself is a 22 karat coin versus the Maple is a 24 karat coin. Now, to not throw you off, the Cougaran still contains 1 ounce of actual gold content. So if you see the size is also a little bit smaller, the Maple is because we're accounting for the other alloys that are put in to make it 22 karat. So you're not getting ripped off or anything or getting less gold or anything like that. It's kind of like if everybody ordered 8 ounces of coffee and I just put some cream and sugar in this one and I left this one black. That's really kind of what it comes down to, is that it's just a purity. Now, for me, I prefer pure gold with the Maple Leafs. I just tend to lean towards that in the general sense of things. But Cougarans right now are also running an incredibly low premium, so they can be a really great purchase for you, which is something to think about. The other thing too, I do also show people, but it's not something that I recommend as often if you don't live as close to myself or turning in, it can be an issue. This is going to be the 1 ounce gold bar. This is a PAMP bar itself. And as you see, it's in a card casing. So this is how you want your bars to come, just so we can make sure that they're certified. We also want to make sure you're buying bars from a reputable source. Bars are some of the most commonly fake gold pieces in the entire country and the entire world. So it's just something to think about. Now, to put in perspective, I also brought a tube of gold eagles so that we can kind of get sizing is kind of what I'm trying. Now, this is 20 gold eagles. So this is going to be about $50,000, give or take. It's just shy of 50. So I want people to kind of see, like, if you put that in your hand, that's how, you'd be spending about 50 grand and you could walk out with your pocket full if you needed to. Another bar that we get asked about a lot, and this I think is honestly also a really good way to go if you wanted to do something more on the fractional side. So I have two different sizes here. So this is going to be the 101 gram Valcambi Combi bar. So if you look at the piecing, as you can see here, it has all the little 1 grams.
Yeah, it's like a chocolate bar, only gold.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, Charlie didn't get as lucky as I did, but these break apart. So what you can do is if you ever had to, you could use 1 gram at a time, or if you wanted to trade some gold in to get rid of some of your gold wealth, you can break them apart. Now, this would be very good if we ever got to the point where we did have to barter or trade. This could be a really great.
How much is that candy bar worth, and how much is a gram worth?
Yeah, so these are running about $7,400. So about per gram, you're paying about $74, which is a pretty good price, to be honest. I have to get exact pricing, but that's about approximation with today's market.
Yeah, obviously prices
The
change.
other option, if this is too much, so your 100 grams, just to be clear, also is 3.215 parts of an ounce, versus you could also go with something smaller. So this is a 50, which is a really good option too. It's about the size of a credit card. If I was going to swipe my Visa, the Visa would be about the same size as this. And it's perfect because this also breaks off right here. And you could put it in your wallet, for example, if it came down to it. So it's something just to think about as we kind of are in, preparing for what's to come. And just also, you can secure wealth at the same time while preparing for what I call a wild, wild west scenario, where if things get really, really bad, you're ready to go. As far as silver goes, in the general sense of things, right now, I always recommend to have some 1 ounces on hand because you can really barter and trade with those. I think it's a good option. So I brought out two different options here too, just so we can have some perspective. The one that I recommend the most, and I talk about it on Sundays too, this is the 1 ounce buffalo round. So it's going to be a generic buffalo round. You'll see the buffaloes on the back there. And this has really incredibly low premiums. It's pure silver. It's privately minted. It's a really, really great option if you're trying to get into silver. But at the same time, you want to make sure that you have something that we could also potentially use in that aspect. I have lots of customers who also like the Silver Eagle. This also is going to run a higher premium. So just be aware of that. But one of the reasons why I have customers, the number one feedback that I get, if you actually look on the back of the coin right down here, I don't know if you can see that, it does state that it is $1. So a lot of people like the idea of having a currency listed on the metal itself so that they think it could potentially become a factor down the line. To be frank, I probably don't think it makes a huge difference. I probably would say go with the ecological, friendly, easy to use, cheap premium. Go with that one when you go with the 1 ounce round.
And there's also denomination on the American Gold Eagle, correct?
There is, yeah. So if you also look on any government issued coin, they actually do have to put a denomination. So the gold eagles, though, are considered $50 gold pieces. So just to keep that in mind too. That's why people buy American in general. I'm seeing a lot of American purchases going on right now. In the general sense of things, I think people are just more concerned about having American made, which I'm not particularly against, but I also want you guys to be making, what's the best choice for you and your family. I also brought out, this is going to be a 10 ounce silver bar, which is about the size of my hand, just to put that in perspective too. And then also kind of the biggest item that I would say, we do have 1,000 ounce COMEX bars if you want them, but I don't recommend them. I recommend if you're going to go with a big bulk purchase, I would go with a 100 ounce bar. That's going to be this guy.
Now, why would you not recommend? Just they're too big, too unwieldy, too hard to get around.
Exactly. And the thing too is, so all of the items, we always have to be aware of what we're buying and what we're going to do when it comes time to liquidate. I think liquidation, even though it may be further down the line or you're giving it to the next generation, I think there's things that you want to think about. So for example, 1,000-ounce Comex bar, if you go to sell it, automatically triggers a 1099. So there's also that factor where you don't want to give up a lot of personal information. That's part of the reason I don't recommend them, is because I prefer privacy over everything.
Now, is there any other product that generates a 1099 other than the 1,000-ounce bar?
Yeah, so what it is in the general sense, so at 1,000 ounces or more of silver, so if you sold me 10 100-ounce bars, you're going to trigger a 1099. But the thing is you can drop below because you have it split already into hundreds. So it's just sell 9 at one time, and then you stay under the radar if you want to keep a more private sale. The 90% also is something that if you sell $1,000 face value or more, can trigger a 1099. Gold eagles and silver eagles are exempt from all 1099s. So that's the other positive. So if I bought 100 gold eagles today, and next week it goes to $3,500, and I decide I want to sell my 100 gold eagles, I don't have to file at all. Versus if I buy, say, a Cougaran or a Maple Leaf or bars, if I sell 25 ounces or more, I'm going to trigger a 1099. So it is just a few things that we just want to kind of keep in mind when we're purchasing, of things that, so you don't get down the line and go, darn, I wish I knew that I should have done this differently, because I would have. So those are the main things. Now, right now, as far as it goes, portion-wise, people are asking a lot, how much silver do you think I should buy? How much gold do you think I should buy? Now, my personal recommendation is to have both. I'm really adamant about having both. Like I said, I like having the 1 ounce generic rounds because I think you can use those. I also am encouraging people to buy the 90% silver right now because, I don't know how bad things are going to get. I always am the type that I say we prep for the worst case scenario and pray to God that things fall way short than we anticipate, that things are a lot better than we anticipate how bad they're going to get. But you don't want to be in that case where you find out that you should have, could have, would have if you had known differently. And so now's the time, in my personal opinion, to just prep, get ready to go, whether you do it in increments, whether you do it in one purchase. I'm just really adamant about get it done.
So several years ago, a patient of mine had to go over to Greece because his family, who was based in Greece, was having some medical issues.
Okay.
And I told him, he said, well, I'm leaving for Greece on whenever it was, Monday. I said, well, take some silver with you, just in case, because financially they're having some really unstable times there.
Really unstable.
And he had previously bought gold and silver, and he goes, well, do you think I need to, what would you suggest? I go, just take some generic. As long as it says 1 ounce on it, take it. I mean, it's insurance. So he goes to Greece, and all things started falling apart even more so there. And I see him 2 weeks later. He comes in the office, doesn't have an appointment to see me for his orthopedic issue. He says, hey, I just want to thank you. I go, what do you want to thank me about? He goes, the last time I was here and I told you I was going to Greece because my relatives had some I go, they're doing okay? Yeah. He goes, they actually got turned around. He goes, but I almost didn't get out of there. And he goes, if it wasn't for what you told me before I left the office about taking some silver with me, I don't think I would have gotten home. He said, what I did is I had to get, this is in Athens, I had to get to the airport. And he goes, what got me a cab when everybody else was having a hard time, because before you got in the cab, they were asking, what are you going to pay with? Yeah. He goes, I just took out my 1 ounce round. The guy goes in. And he goes, I truly believe if I hadn't had that silver with me, I wouldn't have gotten to the airport, and I wouldn't have gotten out because it collapsed even more so afterwards. So many people think that, there's not going to come a point in time where it's going to get so bad you're going to have to use this. Well, you just don't know.
You don't know. No, we don't know. And the fact of the matter is, too, is, we have seen some major bank collapses. And also, if you take 2008, for example, with all the bailouts that happened during that time as well, in the general sense of things, how are we supposed to keep bailing out all these companies over and over again as things get worse with $34 trillion in debt, which is probably more than that if that's what they're reporting. just like we know inflation is higher than 3.4%. If you go to a grocery store, they always leave the goods out so that they make sure that they can skew the numbers how they want to. But, you know, I tell people any given Sunday, unfortunately, is just kind of how the state of the world that we're in. I think that this has unfortunately probably been a long time coming for us as a country. But, you know, the fact of the matter is that this country is very, very young, and we're very, very fortunate to live in this country that we've had all these blessings and all these amazing things, that we have a beautiful country the way we do, and all of these things are going on. So, you know, for me, I think the thing is just, like I said, prepare for the scenarios that you think could never, ever happen. I go back to 2019. If somebody had told me, you know, on the streets of San Francisco that I was going to have to go and get locked up in my house next year, I would have thought, well, he was just acting like a San Franciscan. But then it happened. So I think we always need to put nothing past what the government's capable of. And economically speaking, we can always protect ourselves, because that's how they're going to hit you the hardest. And it's actually the most important thing to hit you with, is because when you have no food on the table, and desperation kicks in, you will do desperate things. And that's what they're encouraging, in my opinion, right now. We see a lot of acts of desperation going on in our country.
Adriana, take us through the process of buying and selling, because all too often people are told it's a very difficult process. It's not transparent. It's very difficult to buy. It's even more difficult to sell. I've never experienced that. With Camino, or I've never had anybody complain to me that there was an issue, except if they dealt with their Uncle Vinny, who was, you know, not exactly reputable. Educate us on the process of buying and selling and the transparency.
Yeah, absolutely. So all you have to do is give us a call. You can talk to one of the traders. You can email me directly. I've talked to a few people out in the Michigan area this past week, of individuals who've been listening for a couple of years and say it's about time to get this done. So all you need to do is just call us up. We'll go over how much you have to spend, what we think is going to work best for you based off of, there's a few things that we kind of dig into a little bit. Is number one is, what's your storage capability, so that you can understand, which is part of the reason why I wanted to bring some items out, so that you have a better gauge as to what you're buying, why you're buying, and the intention behind it, how you're going to store it, where we're going to put it. So we lock in the prices over the phone, you send payment, I send you physical assets. It's literally that simple. It's a very, very simple thing to get yourself into. There's a lot of things also. I'm very excited about April 6th to have this conversation with everybody, because I think there's a lot of questions that kind of bounce around, or things that are not true, like your broker telling you it's not easy, that if you spend over $10,000, you're going to get sent to the IRS and your name's going to go on a blacklist. That's not true. There's, you know, all these kind of, you know, falsehoods around deterring individuals to not do this, because the minute that you buy any of these products, you're going to go off the books. I know it sounds weird, but you know that you have it. Whoever you want to know knows that you have it, but nobody else needs to know. And that's a scary thing for a broker, because brokers like to play with your money, and they can't play with your gold and your silver. And so that's why you need to just call us up, get it done. It's very easy. It's really transparent. As far as storage goes, that's something also that I really want to address, because more than ever, you know, California, our grid goes down a lot. And so there's things that you need to keep in mind when you are storing. If you don't want to store everything at your home, I do recommend having a portion of it in your home, if not all of it. I do not recommend going back to a safety deposit box, because the banking system alone is having its own troubles right now, as we've seen. Like I said, I live near Silicon Valley Bank. So I watched a bank that had very, very high rollers go from the bank of the hour to just complete blackout. And so we always want to be mindful of where we're storing. The other thing too is you could also look up private depositories. They're a really great option. Unfortunately, I think Dave Brinks has opted out of no longer storing private holdings for precious metals individuals. So you need to find a local depository. I recommend you go and do your research, though. You always want to walk into the place, check out the management, check out everything that where you're storing, how much money you put in there, make sure that they're fully insured, a lot of different factors, but that's the other option. But home storage is always the winner in my eyes. So
selling.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's just the same exact process in reverse. So you call us up, we lock in the price, you send the material, we get the material, and then we're going to send payment out to you. Processing times typically are about 48 hours. Sometimes it can be a little bit longer if we get incredibly busy, and we also have a lot of inbound packages that we have to process. So it can take a little bit of time, but for the most part, once again, a very easy process. I have customers who are, not to be rude, but are in their 80s and can seem to get gold and silver shipped back to us and do just fine every month. So, they have their monthly expenses, and we kind of have an agreement. They send a couple of gold pieces or a couple 100-ounce bars or some 10-ounce bars, whatever it is. And that's how they live, actually. So very easy process.
So I was contacted this week by somebody who was hesitant to get involved with physical gold and physical silver, and finally did.
Yeah.
And they said, Dave, there's something you've never mentioned in all your discussions about the benefits of that life preserver, that lifeboat of physical gold and physical silver.
Yeah.
Well, what's that? And they said, well, when I get my financial statement every month, I look at it and, it's nice. It's on paper. It's nice.
Yeah.
He goes, but when I got my gold and silver delivered to me, and the minute I picked it up, I realized that this was really the first financial insurance investment product that I actually owned. He goes, just holding that physical coin in my hand, he goes, actually changed my financial life. And I never talked about that, but it is true.
Yeah.
It goes back to the beginning of this, when my dad, if you don't hold it, you don't own it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And,
especially, sorry, go ahead.
No, go right ahead.
One of the things that I just want to address, especially in this era that we live in, is that things are in a constant state of being taken away from us.
Yes.
They're taking. And so that's why, especially when you deal with paper contracts, I saw it in 2008. You and I talk about this a lot.
Yes.
Is one of the things that people, I address with individuals too, is would you rather have to have somebody come into your home and physically cease your assets, or they can hit that keyboard and say, hey, today that crash is going to happen. That keyboard stroke happens and you are SOL. I'm sorry, there's no other way to put it. But, all your assets that are on paper in the stock market are not physical products. I have one rule of thumb, that they can always go to zero. You want to be in physical assets, because physical assets over the history of histories have never gone to zero. They'll never be at zero. So the one thing about the product that I provide for everybody too is that you are never going to lose everything. You'll never lose everything. There may be dips, there may be growth, there may be here's and there's, but the one thing that I do know is over time that your life will be better off with physical assets.
And Adriana, let's end on this. Many people are also told with their IRAs and 401ks and the like, that you cannot hold physical precious metals in those type of accounts.
Right.
Educate folks on this. Really set the record straight, because I think there's been a lot of misinformation on this.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to go over, since we have like a little bit of time here, to go over the entry point and also the withdrawal, because I think that's something too that deters individuals from dealing with IRAs. So IRAs are very simple. I have a couple of self-directed IRA companies that I work with that I'll recommend to you to do your research on. But the main thing is there's a couple things. Is number one, IRAs, we want to be very sound of mind when we're purchasing with an IRA, because that's your whole life savings that we're talking about. So we want to make sure that we're logical in what we do. So I recommend calling me first before you deal with any IRA company at all, because they're going to sell you proof gold or this anomaly or that or this or that. And I've seen people lose a lot of money dealing with other companies. And I'm just being transparent with you right now. That's what I want to be, is very transparent when it comes to IRAs. When you go to purchase them, we'll set up the account. It goes funded. You can purchase from us. The only downside is we have to ship to a depository. The depositories could be of your choosing based off of the different ones that the companies work with. You can pick something that's in a proximity as to where you live in the United States, I think would be the most logical. That's number one. Number two, now on the withdrawal side of things, because I get this question a lot, it can go back to the same exact thing, is that you will just send a form to the IRA company saying that you're ready to liquidate this much. You can do it on a monthly basis. You can do it all together, whatever you choose to do. The liquidation factor is very simple. We just pay the IRA company. They send us the metals, and then they fund your account, and then you're back into cash. So it's a very easy in and out process in the general sense of things. It's just, I think that we are in a current state, again, of the United States where we're being deterred from doing the things that could save us, help us, make our lives better. They want you to be on government assistance. They want to deter your life. They want you to be unhealthy. They want you to be unhappy. And my job is to make you happy, to make you sound, to get that good night's sleep, because you will survive the next crash, whenever that is. It's not a matter of if it's going to happen. It will happen. There will be another crash. It will happen. And they're going to call us in a little bit more towards the government, and gold and silver will put you as an outlier. So I would rather be an outlier.
As would I. So educate our listeners, Adriana, and how they can follow you on a regular basis, how they can get in touch with you, how they can learn more about the Camino Company.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can head over to CaminoCompany.com. We have a 24/7 store. The other option that you can do, if you want to talk to me directly, you can shoot me an email at adriana@CaminoCompany.com, spelled all the way out. You can also give us a call. We're open from 8:30 to 4 Pacific Standard Time, Monday through Friday. You can call directly, or you can also, there is a contact at the bottom of our website. If you want to hit that, you can also send a question or a comment through there if you choose to do so.
Adriana, I'd like to thank you and everybody at the Camino Company for everything that you have done, are doing, and will do. It is not an overstatement to say that the Camino Company has built a lifeboat for these very turbulent financial seas that we are currently in the midst of. And that financial lifeboat is an insurance policy utilizing precious metals, gold and silver in this case, and protecting people from the powers that be, if you will, that want to strip people of their freedom, their liberty, and their financial security. I'd like to thank you, you and everybody at Camino, for everything you have done, are doing, and will do. And I thank you folks for joining us. Until next time, Dave Janda signing off. Dream big and dare to fail. Thanks for your time today.